and we have Marcella Stanley, and we also have Erica Yeages. We thought we'd get some ladies on the show. James is away for a family event this week. We miss you, James. So I thought we'd take the opportunity to get two ladies on the show. Actually, it's been pretty difficult to get two ladies within the company to come on and sort of talk. So I thought we'd just get some ladies' point of views on different things. And first of all, we've got Miss Marcella Stanley. Good morning, Marcella.
Hey, Stephen.
As you can tell, she looks very comfortable and very relaxed about the situation, and she's quite looking forward to express her opinion. I've been reassuring Marcella all week, but don't worry, Marcella, it'll be okay. But thank you for coming on, Marcella. We appreciate it. We appreciate it. It's my pleasure. Marcella's worked for me for a number of years, and I appreciate you, Marcella. And then we've also got another one of our agents, Erica Yeages. And good morning, Erica.
Good morning, Stephen. How are you?
Thank you.
And good morning to all the, all Olympian team.
Absolutely. I'm sorry we're a bit late this morning, but we've sort of we've had some track issues that we've been working with to get people here on time, so we appreciate it. So anyway, the first thing we're going to talk about this morning, and myself and James have sort of spoken about the next topic, and I thought it would just be interesting to get some female opinion on it. And I'm going to go off track to what I originally said. But I'd like to talk about Roe versus Wade. So, Marcella, what's your feeling as a lady? The one, you've got men making decisions about you, and just the general, just the whole mess that it's turned out to be.
I think there's no place for a man to make a decision about what he should do.
Okay, do you agree with the decision, or do you disagree with the decision, or is that something that you don't even want to go?
No, I mean, I think a woman should have the choice to do what she wants to do.
Okay. Do you think there's any circumstances that warrant? I mean, I don't think it's the perfect situation to, obviously to get an abortion.
I think once there's a heartbeat, I think that's drawing the line. I think an abortion should not be granted at that.
What point is that? Educate me. Is that right?
I don't know. Imagine that would probably be like 12 weeks.
All right. Okay. And how about you, Erica? How do you feel as a lady? Now, let's just go through something. You're Hispanic, all right? Catholic?
Yes, Catholic.
Sort of?
Sort of, yes, Christian Catholic.
Okay. No. Because I do think that religion and background makes a difference.
Have a lot, yes, to do with that. Especially Catholics, they are against of abortion.
Right.
Yes. Well, for me, I consider the law should stay. I should have. I as a woman, I should have the right to do what I want to do with my body. Of course.
Okay.
Of course, with certain restrictions. I know I agree with abortion in an irresponsible way. And agree with abortion when conditions or situations are not in favor of either my health or the health of the baby, or because I was raped, something like that. That should be something that we need to consider. Of course, after 9 weeks, my baby heartbeat was at 9 weeks. So I wouldn't do or interrupt my pregnancy after listening that heartbeat.
Yeah.
Right.
And against of that is considered already life.
Right.
Yes. So of course I'm pro-choice and pro-life.
Right.
But
personally, I think you can be. I think anybody can be. But I think you brought some really good points on there. To be perfectly honest, I really do. Can you bring up the there was an article that I gave you, Everett, about regarding the demonstrations. So as ladies, how do you feel about men making your decisions mostly? I mean, most of the men that...
Well, I mean, I don't think they have a clue as to what a woman goes through with pregnancy. The emotional toll, the physical toll, or whatever. So I don't think they...
I'll confess something to you. I've actually been in that situation twice. The first one is when it happened when I was actually dating. The girl made the decision that she wanted the abortion. I personally didn't want to. One, because I loved her at the time, and two, I was happy as anybody because I always wanted kids. And then later on in life, it happened, and believe it or not, the same thing happened. You know, the girl at the time wanted to cease the pregnancy, and a lot of it was cultural, because her family would look at it, and everything else. Yeah. And that's what I think a lot of people, don't understand. There's a lot of outside factors that come into it, and it took a lot of persuasion, for me to discuss it and persuade different people. And that's the part that I think is so that people, it's not as clear cut as people want it to be. There's other factors, there's family factors, cultural factors, but it was the way of life, but it did take a little bit of persuasion with different people. So, I just think it's interesting to get, as I said to with James being away, we miss you, James. I just wanted to take an opportunity to get some ladies' opinions. You know me, I always like to cause confusion and mix it up a little bit. But we've got two great real estate agents here. We've got Marcella Stanley, who's one of our agents. You can find her on the Century 21 Olympian website. We've also got Erica Yeager. They're both real estate agents. Erica, where do you live? Humboldt?
Well, I recently
North
moved.
Houston?
I recently moved, and I'm close to Katie now on the ADI.
Oh, you are? Okay,
yeah.
There you go. On the west side of town. What town are you on?
No.
Oh, there you go. That's completely reversed. Completely reverse things around. Okay. Now, we're going to move on. We're going to talk a little bit more about something that sort of happened that was very disturbing the weekend. We're actually going to talk about the New York shooting.
Mm-hmm.
And Erica has a little bit of you actually have a bit of sort of personal information because you've got family you said up there.
Yes, I have family also from Venezuela living in Buffalo. And I got scared when I heard the news because my cousin is working in a supermarket. So I said, "Oh my God!" and I called him, and he said that that happened in a supermarket just in the neighborhood where he lived. That was really tragic because one of his friends from church was killed there. And
last weekend?
Huh?
Last weekend, Saturday?
Yes, on Saturday.
Oh.
Yes, he was working also in the store, and but he got killed. Yes, one of his two family members were working there. One was able to leave the store behind on the back of the store by using the exit door on the back, but one of them couldn't, and unfortunately he died on the event. So it's really unfortunate that this is happening. That we're still facing shootings everywhere, that we are not feeling safe anywhere we go. And especially for these causes, what I heard seems that the shooter was against the Black community, was planning that.
A white supremacist.
Yes, exactly.
Do you think, how do you feel about the shooting? What's your feeling on it as a black woman?
I think too often times they get away with committing crimes like this. I would like to see, him get his
alarming. I find two things alarming about the situation. The first thing is that he's a white supremacist. My personal feelings I've lived all over the world as an Olympian, teaching, sport, that I've found America to be one of the most racist countries that I've ever lived in. Makes it worse because you've got gun laws, you've got guns out there. I think that does nothing but add to the problem. And the other part that I find real disturbing about this particular issue is he FaceTimed it. Mm-hmm. Here he is walking around a supermarket, FaceTiming it.
Like he was bragging about what he was doing.
And that's one of the things that I really feel concerned about. Another point that when I sort of first found out about this is, by all accounts, he got a gun from a state legally. Mm-hmm. So he got a gun from another state legally. So, and then he modified it so it was more efficient, more effective, or whatever. I'm not really a gun person, although I do carry. It's not really there to use, to be perfectly honest. I'd only use it. I wouldn't say I'm a hypocrite on it, but unfortunately, with what you see, especially when you see things like this, it's very concerning. But the guy modified it. You've just got to go to YouTube to find out how to modify it. Then he takes it to another state, goes across state lines, to the effect of what he did in Buffalo. Mm-hmm. It really upsets me from a point of view of, the white supremacy thing. I don't really like to bring in past presidents, but we was talking earlier on that I really think that whoever the president is, whether he's Republican, whether he's Democratic, I really feel he needs to speak out. And I'm glad that Biden did, to be perfectly honest, and say, look, this isn't what America's about. This isn't what we are. So, we're not openly supporting this type of action, to be perfectly honest. Whether you're pro-gun or whether you're anti-gun, in my opinion, makes no difference. If you're pro-gun, then I know some pro-gun people I spoke to about this particular incident. Every single one of them has turned around and said, in disgust about the New York, but I'd like to know about the mental capacity. I mean, 18 years old, and the other side of the coin is, now people will say, well, I don't feel sorry for him, But at the same time, I'd like to know what his mental state is. I'd like to know what is just a bit more about him. Obviously, it's affected so many families. Mm-hmm. Even people that have shot that haven't been killed, it's still going to affect their families mentally. Later on in the show, we're going to talk a little bit about the cost of healthcare. But I mean, it's so disappointing, and on the the other part that's disappointing is we're seeing more and more of these.
Yes.
We're seeing more and more of these events, and that's even more concerning. You know, so you actually have family that was killed.
Yeah, family, friends, friends from the family. That was, yeah. So.
That's.
And I ask myself why they don't receive. We check the background and credit report of people that is renting a house. Why we don't check the background?
That's a very good point.
Yes.
I've never sort of seen it that way,
yeah.
but that's a very good point.
Of people that is carry guns. Because all these people is mentally ill, as you were saying. So why are you gonna give a gun to somebody that is mentally sick?
Well, it's my understanding that when you go buy a gun, that they do an FBI report. That they do if you're mentally ill, would that be on an FBI report?
I don't think medical history comes into play.
Well, if they don't have
There's
any
a lot of people out there that are bipolar.
But you also got to take a look at the fact that not every mentally ill person is typically violent. That's
exactly. But well.
But I do agree that a person who has a violent history should not actually be able to actually even buy or even lease one.
But sometimes these 18 years old kids, they don't have maybe criminal history. He was a high school student or something like that, but there is something that should trigger that person is capable of carrying a gun or not. And the school should have told hey, this guy is some kind of disoriented or going toward these things. Because most of the shooters are young people.
That's actually pretty true. Most of them are. And then, the one of them got off completely.
Mm-hmm.
One of them recently. I forget, what was you saying his name was earlier?
You know what, I can't think of.
But he got off completely.
Yeah, he said he was in fear of his life. Now, he went to the situation with a gun.
From out of state as well.
From out of state, had his mother driving there. And then, ended up killing a few people. And then he was able to get off, he said he was being attacked at that time and was in fear of his life. That's the reason why he shot his gun. But he's the one that showed up there in the first place. I don't see how that shouldn't have happened. He shouldn't have been able to get up. He took some life.
I think it'd be interesting to see how much bond is and everything else. I know he's still in custody. The guy from New York, he's still in custody. But then if we could move up to what we've got on the screen, let's move up. This is the third point I wanted to bring up, is why are Americans paying more for healthcare than other countries? Reasons why I was sort of stop with you. You had a few difficult years.
Mm-hmm.
But when I used to teach some of the kids ice skating, and they were special needs kids, it's a different type of payback. It's a different type of payback to what it might be in. It's not a cash payback. It really is. They've got a different type of love that they give you back.
They do. Because some of them have mental and physical challenges.
Right.
So when they achieve something, that makes them feel good. They've accomplished something.
Right, but it really is I feel at times that, I'm epileptic. So it's very difficult. I'm not asking for a handout, but I do feel the way the healthcare system is set up, it's set up as a business.
Mm-hmm.
Now, from Europe, my mother's in special care in England and she's 84 years old. I still have to pay for my mother in healthcare.
Mm-hmm.
It's not free in Europe like propaganda over here says, but American business is not involved in the healthcare process as much as it is over here. And that's the part that I object to. The purpose of American business and capitalism, if you want to call it, is to make a profit. So I don't really see how that's helping me as an individual by them making a profit and then sending money to their shareholders. I really feel that it's the government's duty, and I feel it's part of somebody being human in humanity to be able to provide me with the most efficient healthcare system that we can have. In Europe, if you call the ambulance, then okay, that's provided by the government. That's an emergency situation. My mother, who had a house at the time, and we had a business over there as well that we sold. We had a particular peak, so that's another reason I don't see why the government should pay. Lucky enough we had the funds from my mother, so we're what we call a paying person or whatever, and I pay them per month, and I ship funds over there to make sure they've got the funds to do that. But I'm not paying an American business. I'm paying a healthcare system where I just think it's more efficient. That's just my concern is over here the healthcare system is a business. And that's why drugs are so expensive. I tried to make an appointment with the doctor once and told there was an 8-month waiting list. And I just happened to call another doctor about the same situation. They said, leave it to me. I had an appointment in 14 days. Well, if that was a heart doctor and somebody had a heart problem and they needed to be seen by a doctor in that time, a specialist, they could have passed. And what it really boils down to is, this is what I've been told, is that insurance companies pay for the attention of the doctors and they keep so many slots open. So that's concerning to me. You can call it corrupt, you can call it one. I just call it having no integrity. I don't really like to call it a corrupt system. It provides a lot of jobs for people, but I just call it corrupt. And the other part that I'll never forget, I went to see a urologist, and I spoke to this urologist that was speaking. He was a real nice guy. And he looked a bit older than most. And I said to him, I hope you don't mind me. How old are you? He was basically in his mid-30s. And I said, how long does it take to be a urologist? And he said, well, I've got to go to med school, and then I've got to do this, then I've got to go to and serve so many years with, a urologist. And then I said, and I've got to ask you, I said, look, I'm European, I understand nothing. I said, but how much does it cost you to get to this point? And the guy said, well, I've probably got about over $300,000 in student loans.
Oh, wow.
Now, if that guy becomes a urologist and he's got $400,000 in loans, he's got to get that money back somehow.
Yes.
So how is he supposed to get the money back? He's got to get it back. There's only one way he can get it back. he's got to charge the fees that he does. And that in itself pushes up the cost of healthcare. And I really feel that healthcare in America, I really feel that healthcare in America is very inefficient. The drug cost is just nuts. One of the drugs that I take in England is around $30 to $45 for a month's supply. Over here, the insurance company, it's about $115. And the reason why I know that is because, unfortunately, he passed about 12 months ago. But my neurologist that I knew from England became a personal friend because I did Olympics and everything else. And I went back to see him just to try and find out what the cost of the drugs was, roughly. And he was semi-retired, and he died at the age of 87. It was Dr. Jones. That it just goes to show, the almighty capitalists. And I really think there's a point where capitalism works. And I am a capitalist, I ain't no bones about it, but I think there's a point where somebody's got to step in, and somebody's got to step in for the smaller people, if you want, because if not, it just gets out of control. And that's what I think has happened to the healthcare industry. You're in a position where the stockholders are more important than the patients. So it's out of control, and you can't blame the doctors. The doctors have got these huge amounts of loans to pay, But I do think there should be some help for them if they don't graduate, they give them a loan, then they've got to pay it off something else. What's your opinion on that? What's your opinion on the healthcare system, Erica?
Well, no, as you said, and I agree with you that it's inefficient and so expensive. When you brought at the point of the ambulance that was free in Europe because it's considered an emergency, I used the ambulance 2 years ago, and I'm still paying for that ambulance. So
the part that's interesting is if you call an ambulance in England and it's considered not an emergency, then you just happen to get billed for it.
Okay, yes, in that case. But just for medical reasons, I was transported from one emergency room to the Humboldt Hospital. And it was $2,800 for either 15 miles. not 10 miles, I guess. And
one of the parts that really upsets me is...
And the insurance cover part. That is my deductible. So that's...
But
that was what you were left with.
Yes.
Oh.
That's just nuts.
That's nuts.
And that's a racket as well with the insurance. 2003, I caught encephalitis at a vending company and I got bitten by a mosquito. And basically, I paid, it was $240,000 at the time because I wasn't insurable. And I sold my vending company to pay at the time I had a vending company, and I sold that to pay my insurance company. And then I'll never forget, like 2 or 3 payments when I paid this amount. The guy on the phone turned around and says, well, why didn't you negotiate? Why didn't you, we would have took less for this, just do a payment plan. So I paid them the amount of money. And 2 or 3 times, one of the guys was nice enough to turn around and say, well, why didn't you negotiate with us? Because we would have took less. And I'd actually sold. I had sold my vending company and got back into corporate America at the time. So.
They would have haggled with you.
What's that?
They would have haggled with you. That's what exactly what you. That's what you do. So it's like,
and
I give you a price, you give me a price, we talk it down, we find
right. But why should you have to even go through that system? Why, and then insurance. There's one price for insurance and there's one price for you if you're a cash-paying customer. I thought cash was king. I thought with cash, maybe you should give me a better discount. If you're buying a house and you've got cash, then maybe you'll get it a little bit, especially the market that we're going into, if you're paying cash, then you normally don't expect to pay the same price. With healthcare, that doesn't matter. With healthcare, I think it's the opposite. So we sort of voiced some opinions about that. That's been an interesting conversation. Everett, can you bring up an article that HAR brought up this week about 47% of people? The Houston Association of Realtors have recently brought up the statistics that only 47% of people in Houston can afford to buy a house, which is sort of pretty alarming, really. I came here to live the American dream. On my ticket list, the first thing that I wanted to do was to buy a house. And at the time, I wanted a house so much, I paid 18% interest. Them were the days.
Wow.
Because I didn't have any credit. It was actually a VA foreclosure that I purchased. It wasn't in bad condition, but HAR basically just brought out this report. Only 47% make enough. You're out on the street.
No, that's right, completely right. I have clients that are working that are in the North industry and the oil and gas field even, and the plants, working on the plants, trying to get, a loan for a house. And they get approved for 250, 280, 300, and they kind of, they can afford the house that they really want, because now the median is 330, as HAR said, but it's a median for a 3-bedroom, 2-bath with 14 or 1,300 square feet. So if there is a family that has 3 kids, 4 kids, 1,300 square feet is not enough. So if they want to go higher, they are looking into houses for roughly $400,000.
Yeah, and you're getting involved in a multiple offer situation.
Exactly. With those
which
prices,
is making the situation even worse.
Even worse.
And people say, "Oh, there's a housing crunch coming." I've said from day one, I don't think there's a housing price coming in Houston, because the housing crunch. I was one of the foreclosure kings, as I've said, back in 2008 when we had all the foreclosures. One year I foreclosed 199 homes. That's how bad it was, but we didn't have different structural processes in place. Like now we've got the Quality Mortgage Act and all the quality mortgage, where people actually, it's harder to qualify for a loan now.
Yeah.
People are putting more money down than what they did do before. Before, you could buy a house and basically get 103% out of the house. So you're paying 3% over what the house is worth.
Yes.
And I just feel that in the Sun Belt, the effect is not going to be as much. And we're still seeing the first effect normally comes from the new home builders.
Mm-hmm.
Now, we've had some new home builders starting to go into a little bit of panic. I haven't seen any home builders come out with the big BTSAs yet, you know. We'll pay the agents an extra $5,000.
No,
But I've seen when they really start to panic, them home builders, they'll start to bring them BTSAs.
Mm-hmm.
I've had one home builder that's approached us about coming to see present in the office, who mentioned that if you ask for the BTSA, we may give you the BTSA.
Oh.
Which I think personally has no integrity and it's a bit under the table, and I don't like that.
Mm-hmm.
Because the client should always come first.
Yeah.
But that'll be the first part. And I really feel in Houston we don't have the inventory like we should have to really make an effect.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I think the builders will cut back. I think it'll flatten a little bit. What's your feeling on that? How do you feel the market will go?
I think it's still rising. You know, I think we're still going to have less inventory because there's not enough houses out there.
It was reported recently that in America they need to build 4 million houses to get back into a position where, you know, it'll start to affect the prices.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there's lack of tradespeople since 2008 because of that crash. A lot of tradespeople came out of the industry. Carpenters, electricians, plumbers, they came out of the industry and went into other, other industries. How about you, Erica? How do you feel that the market's going to go? How do you see the market changing in the next
Well,
12 months,
I
3
feel
years?
that you know, clients also ask me, the prices are gonna drop. I'm gonna wait because the prices are gonna drop. I said, no, not really. Maybe we get a point where the prices, you know, are gonna be like flat when we have enough inventory, and also we have been affected because of the supply chain. And I understand also the new builders have been affected with that because the materials have been increasing in price as well.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't feel that, you know, thinking of that way, the builder building houses with expensive material, that they are gonna drop the
Well,
price.
it's another point that people forget as well. When we talk about inventory,
Mm-hmm.
you've also got wholesalers out there
Yeah,
that are buying houses.
houses.
Sellers are not getting the money that they should do for the house
Mhm.
because wholesalers like to buy the house 70% of ARV after repaired value to really make the deal work. There's one company out there, wholesaling company, they'll buy it 85% just because people don't want to repair the property.
Mm-hmm.
And so that in itself is taking inventory and
Yes.
popping the prices up. And I really am not a great lover of some of these wholesalers because what they're doing is they're not licensed. They don't have to tell you the truth. And I feel it's taking money out of people's property. Welcome to capitalism.
Mm-hmm.
And that in itself is propping, you know, prices up. What the other point that I sort of just want to say is my daughter's in St. Marcus and doing very well in St. Marcus. She's doing an MBA. She's a lot smarter than her dad. And we went out to St. Marcus and we're driving the neighborhoods. And I think I've told you this. And there was one house in there that was purchased by a wholesaler. All right. In this particular area that's near the Texas State University, the wholesalers have really gone in and rehabbed the properties. Now, you know, some wholesalers, their quality is not very good because of the rehab. You put an inspector in there and the inspector will rip it apart. And there was one home in that neighborhood that was a 3-bedroom, 2-bath. It was $650,000.
Well,
Beautifully done, look beautifully done from the front.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I don't know until you get in there and you look at the nuts and the bolts. And then there was another home in the area that was beautifully done again at 350. There was one at 350, there was another one at 380. There was another one that was 300 that was a wholesaler project gone wrong. And there's no way, I think it was even worth 300, to be honest. I'd never recommend a client to pay 300. No electric, no plumbing, no permits done on the property.
And they still asking that for?
Still asking 300. And it's occasions like that that push up, that push up the market.
Mm-hmm.
And actually, I got a call from one of the agents, a very professional agent, one of the agents yesterday. One of the properties, the one that was 649, said that they were looking at possibly dropping the price of the property down. And it looked like it was beautifully done, but I'd like to get an inspector in there to see, So, but it just goes to show that in Texas general, I feel that Texas is a different animal.
Yes.
And just to everybody know, we've started a second YouTube channel. It's going to be Thursdays at 12 o'clock, and it's going to be called the Texas Real Estate Show. And all we're going to talk about is Texas real estate. Things changing. We're going to talk about, we're getting maybe some agents in from St. Marcus and Austin, and not just with Century 21, but from Keller, Caldwell Banker, so it'll be a pretty interesting project, and we feel that will just add another dimension. So it's a second show, the Texas Real Estate Show is going to be called. So hopefully we'll see you there at 12 o'clock tomorrow. How do you feel the prices are going to be affected over the next 3 years? Do you think it'll flatten out, Erica?
Flat, but not that flat. I don't feel that it's going to be, we have been receiving, but the houses have been appreciated too much since last year to this year. I feel that it's because also too many cash buyers that are putting even more money than the house is priced for, and inflation is also affecting.
How do you feel about rental prices?
Rental prices have been also increasing a lot, and it still is, and they're going to be increasingly.
Well, it was reported that the housing prices the last 12 months in Texas went up 16%. That's what it was reported. All my rental properties that I've got, we have an addendum where the rental prices go up between 3 and 5% per year.
Mm-hmm.
So it's an automatic increase. One of the landlords that we know turned around and said, actually, they laughed at us. They said, you should be putting your rental prices up between $50 and $150 a year. And, obviously, renters get upset when, it's going up that sort of, amount. But I like to be fair to people. I'm a bit of a softie myself. Seen it over the years. But the truth of the matter is, people have got to live. Incomes haven't gone up that much.
Yeah, that's what I was about to say. The income hasn't gone up.
Yes.
Can't manage.
It puts them, I think we're all going to feel the squeeze. I've got to tell you a real funny story real quick. I'm feeling to show you how inflation affects us all. We've got a Suburban. The Suburban is 11 years old and has done 42,000 miles maybe. We never drive it. I don't know why we even bought it in the first place. I bought it for my 21st birthday. I bought it one of my birthdays. The other day I'm pumping it up. And I'm putting it in, and it's going up and it's going up. And the guy over on the other side of the pump, he turned around and says, can you believe how much gas has gone up? And I said, yeah, And then he realised I was European because of my accent, and he turned around and said, I lived in Europe. And I said, yeah. I said, if I filled this vehicle up in Europe, it'd be 5 times this. And he said, now we're paying European prices for gas. And to fill my Suburban up was $105.
It's really
$105. That is going to affect people.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to affect businesses. It's going to affect all prices. So hopefully the new electric age that comes in, hopefully that will help us. And I think it will. I'm very sort of, electric on that, and I really do hope that it just makes a difference, to be perfectly honest. And I'm looking forward to see the electric truck. I might even decide to buy an electric truck, to be perfectly honest. I never bought a truck, but I think it'd be pretty cool to that electric truck. One of our agents is buying an electric truck, and he was saying he could power his house from it, which I thought was pretty cool. Power your house for 3 days on an electric truck. But and then the other thing I just want to mention real quickly is Houston housing market is in the top 10 in the nation. How do you feel about that? I got pretty excited about it. It's a smart asset found that Houston, the Woodlands, and Sugarland areas are some of the best markets for growth and stability. How do you feel about that?
Yeah, that's right. That's right. And I even feel that, Houston has more affordable housing than even Austin, Dallas. And the fact that we have these communities that are growing, like Sugarland, the Woodlands, it makes us, we deserve that position that we have in the market. So we have nice communities that are growing, and Houston have everything.
Well, it's a very multicultural city. Country,
yes, as well.
A multicultural city, and that's one of the reasons why I stayed here. I've lived all over the world. But, to be perfectly honest, I've always loved Houston because it's very multicultural. But I got pretty excited about this when, it came out that Houston is, ranked in some of the top cities, in the nation. So good job to Mayor Turner and some of the others that have done that. The last thing we're going to talk about this morning is a study has just been done, and the majority of lower priced homeowners don't appeal their property taxes. Now, you got some inside information for us, Marcella, because you were saying you used to work at one of the companies that I used, and it's cutmytaxes.com, O'Connor and Associates. You used to work for them, and you were saying, tell us what you used to do there?
I would just take the information that, actually it was more data entry. Just putting the information from the taxes and comparing last year's figures with, the current year's figures. And that was about it.
So you're basically a data entry position, because we have still got, I think, an agent that works for us, Cynthia Garrett. Excuse my say, I think because she's recently been taken into care to sort out a health issue, but she actually used to work for the appraisal district. And she used to go in there and run the numbers and get numbers for the property taxes. So you've done the one end, and Cynthia's done the other end as well, and she got very involved, with doing that. And I haven't got many rental properties as much as I used to have, but I've got a few out there. I'm on automatic. Every year I appeal my property taxes. And some years I'm amazed on how much it comes down, even with the prices going up, to be perfectly honest. But I really feel that I felt this was a shame, because you've got lower priced homeowners that perhaps haven't got so much in their pocket, and they just don't like appealing their property taxes.
Maybe they're just not educated that they can.
Well,
that's also a big factor. I mean, not everyone's actually educated to this point as much. In fact, even college courses don't really prepare you to actually do anything like this unless you're going into real estate or accounting.
Exactly.
Well, perhaps the real estate agents they use should educate them a little bit more, because one of the questions that I always ask when I'm negotiating a contract for a buyer or a seller is, when was the last time you appealed your taxes? So I've got some idea on, what I'm working with. Because I know that if I'm doing a listing and I've got a good buyer's agent that knows how to negotiate, that's one of the questions they're going to ask. When was the last time you appealed your taxes? So, anyways, but I think some interesting points this morning. I want to thank both of you for attending, helping me out. I want to thank you, Marcella, for putting up with me for all these years. I know you was very apprehensive about coming on the Olympian Table. Anybody that's interested in tuning into the Texas Real Estate Show tomorrow at 12 o'clock, it's the inaugural show. We've got somebody called Casey Reed, who is a business development manager for Century 21, and he looks after most of Texas, and I believe some of Louisiana. So we're hoping to get some insight from Casey on what he has been through in the last 3 years and what he sees coming up. And, some of the problems that he's had with different things, and some brokers have had. So I really think it'll actually be a good show. Erica, same to you. We appreciate you coming, and I guess I'll see you at the commercial meeting tomorrow as well, because I know you do a little bit of commercial as well. All right, guys. Well, thank you very much. We look forward to seeing you. James will be back next week. We hope James is watching, if James is there. So,
Hey, James.
so thanks a lot. Thanks to all of you, and you take care.